On this episode, I'm going to be talking about tips and strategies for using micro content to promote your podcast effectively on social media. Stay tuned.
This is the Podcast in the Rough. Tune in every Friday for new adventurous episodes.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Podcast in the Rough. I'm your host, Zebulon Thomas, and this is episode 138. I'm excited about that. And today I'm sharing tips and strategies on micro content, those bite-sized nuggets that can make your podcast shine and attract a wider audience. Now, let's talk about the power of micro content. I want to jump right into this. Have you ever wondered about how you can make your podcast episodes work harder for you? Well, entering micro content is going to be a game changer for you if you haven't started using it already, which I'm sure you have. Let's talk about this. Those short, engaging snippets can be a game changer for promoting your podcast, and I want to break that down for you. I want to talk about the different formats and strategies that you can make the most out of it, and we're going to get into that right away. However, over the years of helping other podcasts grow and developing all types of different micro content, there's so many different ins and outs of this, and it does get exciting. You don't have to be overwhelmed by this. Micro content can be fun once you figure out how you want to play the game and what direction you want to go. First and foremost, since I'm a creative and I love graphics, I went right to looking at Instagram stories. And when I saw that a lot of podcasters, including the ones I was growing, they weren't utilizing the screen properly. They were just kind of putting an image on the front or putting a full image, and it wasn't tailored with branding, and it didn't have cool graphics. It really didn't grab the attention. So then I dived in and started creating these little frames for your social media content for use of stories and shorts and Facebook. And once I did that, man, the doors blew open. So many content creators and other podcasters reaching out to me asking, how did you do that? How did you get the quality just right? And, those who didn't understand Photoshop and know how to really do those things because they weren't the creative graphics person per se, they needed this advice. So I sprung into action and said, well, I could take care of that for you. And that led me down a road of many, many years, many podcasts, and helping them grow their social media content. So I'd like to say that I have something special for you in this episode today that will really add value to you. So let's dive in. First up, let's talk about audiograms. These are visual, engaging audio clips with a waveform that captivates your audience on social media. Use tools like Headliner to easily create audiograms that catch the eye and their ear. And I love Headliner. Now, I will say this, recently my Headliner app on my phone has been kind of glitchy, it hasn't been working. That forced me into checking out Headliner on my laptop, and I was like, this is amazing. A little bit more features, especially when you're using the free version, but man, it's way more powerful on the desktop. So I highly recommend just using it there because you could just send that to your phone and do a whole bunch of cool stuff with it that you really can't do on your phone. But if you're on the go and Headliner app is working on your phone correctly, you're good to go. But I personally love Headliner and I love audiograms. This is my go-to marketing strategy because I'm able to create Instagram posts, stories, and shorts on YouTube and Facebook in different formats, and I still have the wave bouncing around. I love that. It grabs the eye, and it just looks good. Plus, I can wrap that with my branded graphics, and we're going to get into that. Quote graphics. Pull out those thought-provoking quotes from your episodes and turn them into shareable graphics. Platforms like Canva and Adobe Spark can help you design eye-catching visuals that showcases your podcast wisdom. Once again, that is quote graphics. Make sure you're applying that. Teaser trailers. Teaser trailers are like movie trailers for your podcast. Create short, intriguing snippets that leave your audience wanting more. These can be shared on platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok, and don't forget YouTube. But if you want more direction in this world of teaser trailers for your podcast, definitely check out my trailer. I did a whole episode on this, and I'll put the link in the description underneath this podcast episode so you can go right to it. But I did a whole episode talking about creating a podcast trailer, and it was a lot of fun. I even went into details of talking about the length and then how to make a shorter version and then shorten it down even more as you keep doing your podcast so you don't become redundant. And this allows you to mix it up a little bit, having different versions of the podcast trailer. I love trailers. I'm a film guy. It's definitely a go-to. And I would take some time with this. Maybe it doesn't have to be like mine, all animated, but if you're doing video podcasts, you could totally do this. In audio, it's even easier. Crafting micro content strategies. This is a big one for a lot of you. I want to give you the strategies to really craft that micro content so it works effectively and efficiently for you. So now that we've covered the formats, let's talk about the strategies. It's not just about creating micro content, it's about when and where you share it. Episode highlights. Release micro content highlighting key moments just before your episode drops. This builds anticipation and gives your audience a taste of what's to come. And to give you an example, when I have guests on my show or when we were working with other podcasters and they had guests on their shows, I would create a series of micro content a few days before the episode aired. Now, we already recorded this, so we just took snippets of the recording and we did that. Now, if we're doing live, we've done live podcasts too. And then I would just show a picture of the guest that's coming on. And I would do a voiceover, on this week's episode of the Podcast in the Rough, guest, and I'd name the guest. But I would do that for all these different podcasters. And we saw a huge increase in viewership and the retention was a lot better when the podcast episode actually dropped. So consider doing that. And it doesn't have to just be guests, but pre-promote what you're about to do in each episode before you do it and let them know. Behind the scenes. I always talk about sharing behind the scenes, sharing your journey as you grow, especially in podcasting. It's like the biggest way to grow and the fastest way to grow because it allows the founding members to be part of that journey as you get bigger and bigger and bigger and evolve. And they will be diehard raving fans through and through because they were part of the beginning process. As long as you keep sharing the behind the scenes and never let that change. Take your audience behind the scenes, share snippets of your recording process, funny outtakes, and even sneak peek into your podcasting setup. This humanizes the brand and creates a connection with your listeners. I can't stress that enough. When you go into my podcast community mastermind group, I'm sharing behind the scenes. I'm showing you my mixer, my Rodecaster Pro. I'm showing you all the different things I'm using, my microphones. And I geek out over this, and it's a lot of fun. And I also do that on social media. I share, hey guys, I'm doing this thing today, and it was a complete failure because I didn't turn the microphone mute button off. Record a whole episode, true story, record a whole episode and didn't unmute it. Or I recorded everything, and there was a weird interference, and this is how I solved that problem. I pivoted and got back into it, and bam, that's why we have an episode. I did it in literally 3 hours left until post time. Share that. Your audience will become excited about the adventure that you're taking them on. So don't forget to share behind the scenes content. Cross promotions. I always talk about collaborating with other podcasters, but when you do this, you can do this by sharing snippets of their episodes and asking them to do the same. This cross promotion exposes your content to new audiences. So simply just take your favorite podcasters or someone in your realm, in your wheelhouse, and snip out some of your favorite moments that you think is going to be valuable to your audience. And use that as micro content and tag them in it. Make sure you're tagging and giving credit where credit is due. And then reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing this and I've had a lot of traction. I'm trying to send some of my audience to you. And then would you be willing to do the same for me? Hopefully they'll cut up your content as well so you don't have to do the work. But it doesn't hurt to have a little content promo pack ready to go where you've cut up all the episodes of your stuff that you think is valuable that you want out there and just send it to them in email in a zip folder and say, here you go. I've already put everything together. All you gotta do is take what you like and share it where you want and just tag me. Make the process super easy for all the ones you're trying to collaborate with. Do the work, put in the time. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna grow. They'll thank you for that. And it makes the process a lot easier for everybody involved because you know your content. Now let's talk about graphic suggestions for micro content. Visual appeal is crucial for micro content. Here's some graphic suggestions to make your snippets stand out. Consistent branding. Maintain a consistent color scheme, font, and logo across all of your micro content. This reinforces your brand identity and makes your snippets instantly recognizable, along with your brand. Hopefully you've been doing this on social media, and that comes down to the simplicity of your profile picture. Make sure your profile picture is the same on every single platform that you're on, so they know, boom, this is the one, this is the real deal right here. This is the official. This is how I find that person or that podcast. And so you want to do the same thing with all your micro content. If you notice mine, go back and look at all of my stories and my shorts, all the ones I've saved in my Instagram. And if you look at that, you'll see it's consistently all the way through. I always have my logo and my branding consistently through. And I have the same theme too. I'm taking you on a journey, right? I love this podcast in the rough. You're in the rough. You're the diamond in the rough. We're digging through that and we're finding buried treasures. So I have this adventurous theme through my whole thing. That's given me the ability to have a lot of fun with this. So definitely consider consistent branding through everything you do. Now, dynamic visuals. Experiment with dynamic visuals. Try animated snippets, GIFs, or even short video clips. These catch the attention in the scrolling world of social media. If you noticed, on my YouTube channel alone, I have a lot of animated graphics in the earlier episodes of Season 3. Almost all of Season 3. I've kind of cut back on it a little bit because I'm trying to streamline this a little more. But that doesn't mean I don't do animated graphics in some form. And that could be as simple as when you put up a story and you have your images all there and you have your branding, it's all wrapped, ready to go. just use one of the GIF arrows that point to the animation, or if you have the audiogram, you already got some animation there. But use an arrow or something that stands out, or grab a funny, there's all these stickers that you can put on your Instagram stories or TikTok and wherever you're at. It's all available there. Make sure you utilize that to make things easier. You don't have to complicate this, but make sure you have something that's moving at all times on your social media content. It'll really just grab the attention and stop people and go, oh, what is this? I'm excited about this. Like, look, squirrel, right? Right there. We're going for it. Now, call to action graphics are very important. Always include call to action graphics, prompting your audience to subscribe, share, or leave a review. It's so important to do this because even though they want to do it, being reminded to do it, they're excited about it, and they want to leave a comment. I mean, listen, it's very easy. We all run to leave a nasty review, right? We do that. We're so mad about something, and we leave a nasty review. But we need to excite our listeners to feel the opposite emotion that is exploding with joy and euphoria to want to go and take the action of sharing and writing a review. And so the best way to do it is just always ask for it. Just always ask, hey, if you like this, leave me a rating and review. Speaking of which, let me cut to my ad right here. All right, if you're enjoying this podcast episode, I would love for you to give me a rating and review about this podcast by heading over to thepodcastintherough.com and scrolling to the bottom of the page and leaving us a review. Or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a star rating and a review. It would help us reach more people and get them to learn about the Podcast in the Rough. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Okay, once again, if you would like to join me inside the Podcast Community Mastermind Facebook group, it is absolutely free. All you have to do is go to thepodcastintherough.com/learn. That is thepodcastintherough.com/learn and get inside the group and learn how to podcast from start to success. Okay, and that concludes today's episode of Micro Content Magic. Remember, it's not just about full-length episodes. These little snippets can work wonders. And if you need anything at all, like I said, I just played my promo for my Podcast Community Mastermind group. It's free. Jump in there, get involved with me. We'll do a podcast launch. I'm sharing all the secrets of podcasting inside my group, and you get the community, and we're all supportive. So if you're having trouble with your podcast, you're trying to launch a podcast, or you're trying to rebrand a podcast, the Podcast Community Mastermind group is where you need to be. I'm all ready for you. Let's go. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And I can't wait to share with you next week what's been going on in the background of this big event that I'm hosting right now. Today's actually day one of the event because I'm recording this on, Thursday, right? So by the time you're hearing this, it's day two. I created this huge virtual event and it's live and I'm excited about it. And we have a slew of technical issues, but it's all about pivoting and getting through it. And I can't wait to share that with you next week or the weeks to come, depending on how this falls in play, because I want to give you the value all the time. But I do want to open up and share some information with you about the event and how I'm making this work and how I'm stepping forward and I'm making 2024 my best year yet because I'm just teaming up and I'm going at it. And it doesn't mean everything's perfect. In fact, it hasn't been perfect. Man, I've been just going at it and I'm just lit up for that. So I can't wait to share with you in that journey. And if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, let me play one more thing here. I have this special ad. It's better if I just play it instead of just trying to tell it to you. But if you want some premium content, check this out. If you'd like to support this podcast, buy me a coffee by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/intherough and become part of the adventure by showing your support and taking advantage of any one of our exciting membership tiers. The Podcast in the Rough. And there you have it. Definitely get involved if you want some premium content because I'm sharing all the behind the scenes of these things inside of there and really talking about how to avoid the pitfalls or how I've avoided some pitfalls and some of the nasty spills I've taken and how I got back up and, dominated. So that's a little bit more motivation. It's outside this podcast a little bit because I really want to help you learn podcasting, but definitely check that out. It's left to center there and it's going to help you out in a new way. So anyways, I really hope you're enjoying yourself on the Podcast in the Rough, and I've been bringing some great value to you and really maximizing your ability to podcast on a whole new level. I look forward to talking to you next week. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. podcast in the rough.